Members of council, if I can please have you come into the council chambers. Well, we would recess and then come back at 1. 2. No, 2. We come back at 2 o'clock. Members of council, if you can please come to the council chambers. Okay, members of council. Okay, members of council, we have quorum. Hey, victory. Victory. Okay, this meeting is now resumed. I hope everyone had a good night's sleep. You did? Okay, that's good. Members of council, we will now review and confirm the order paper. To this point, council has completed 178 items. There are 13 items left on the agenda. Today's meeting must end by 5:30 under council's policy of ending meetings before sundown on Fridays to permit religious... Well, I mean, I had members of council say that to me yesterday, and we were still here at 9 o'clock, so. I will now take the release of member holds.
Yesterday we have a point of something or other from... I just wanted to tell the members of council I was very pleased just to come back from a very significant announcement for the city with the Prime Minister and the Premier that Thomson Reuters, which had its roots here in Canada, but it's now one of our biggest, if not our biggest, global multinational, has decided to locate a technology centre here that will create 400 jobs here in the City of Toronto immediately, high-tech jobs, ultimately 1,500 jobs in the City of Toronto. And this is a great thing. They're going to move their Chief Executive Officer from the United States to Canada and some of their senior people. And it's just, again, a great indication, thanks to the work of a lot of people, including the Economic Development team and Michael Thompson, that we're doing well, and we've got to keep it up. But I just wanted to share that news with everybody here. I think actually just on the theory that that there can be an embarrassment of riches from time to time, they might end up in Councillor Cressy's ward. Of course. We're negotiating that with them because we said, I don't know, the representation there's a bit sketchy, but I think that's where they're going to go.
But they are getting a new park.
Were they interested in a large park by any chance?
Yeah. Because of the abundance of bicycle lanes in Ward 20 was the real push.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Madam Speaker, I just wanted to add my voice. I wanted to actually applaud the leadership of the mayor. And this is beyond politics, because the mayor has come in with a focus on certainly, bringing a more collegial approach to the chamber and working here at council, but also focus on business and really bringing us all together. But at the same time, there are many business leaders who are actually paying attention that we've got a great mayor and a good business leader in the city, and actually understands that in order to get things done, there's a real need to be not only collegial, but also be purposeful, and setting an environment where there's a sense of understanding that business can actually work in an environment where there's a level playing field and there's a clear understanding. So there's a lot more to come. I want to basically applaud the mayor on his leadership. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we're on page 2, PW 15.10, cycling facilities on Woodbine Avenue. Pardon? All in favor of adopting the order paper? Carried. PW 15.10, Councillor Holliday, you held the item down. Do you have questions to staff?
I do, thank you, Speaker.
Okay.
To the staff, if you could help me elaborate on what's before us. I believe that this report requests approval of various cycling lanes, some on Woodbine, and in particular, Coralie Avenue.
Through the Speaker, that's correct.
Great, and Coralie Avenue is a residential street that runs perpendicular off of Woodbine. And we've heard a lot about Woodbine because that's been in the media, and that's going to be a large change. We're going to be removing some traffic lanes to install bike lanes there. But Coralie Avenue is a residential street that runs perpendicular off of Woodbine and connects on an angle to Kingston Road. Am I correct?
Through the Speaker, that is correct. Coralie Avenue is a one-way westbound local between Woodbine and Brookside Drive.
So in the report, it talks about Coralie Avenue, and it talks about a particular challenge, and I want to confirm that this is still accurate. I take it that there's a YMCA and a school on the south side of Coralie Avenue, and the report states that in order to accommodate the bicycle lane on Coralie Avenue, the drop-off and pickup point for the users of the school and the YMCA facility needs to move from the south side to the north side of the road.
Through the Speaker, that is correct. Staff consulted on 3 options for a location of the pickup drop-off zone, and the feedback from the school principal, the school council, and the community was that moving it to the south side, moving it to the north side would be the best option.
So the children will have to now, so parents that stop their car and drop their kids off will have to bring the children across the street rather than drop them off on the sidewalk. Same deal for the buses and anyone else that uses this facility.
The pickup drop-off zone for parents would be on the north side of the street, where children could be let off curbside and cross at the crosswalk to get to the school.
Sorry, it's a crosswalk or a stop sign?
There's a stop sign with a crossing at that location.
Okay, do we know, I take it Coralie Avenue is part of the 10-year, I know the Woodbine bike lanes were. Was Coralie Avenue part of the 10-year plan?
Yes, it's one of the quiet street local connections of the 10-year plan. Providing a contraflow on the street provides 2-way cycling connections on a street that already
Understood.
has significant cycling traffic.
So if you're a driver, and it's a one-way street, it's a good point. If you're a driver, is there another way to go? If you need to move your car in that direction, you obviously can't go down a one-way street. Is there another way? Is there another route of streets around there to reach the same destination as you would on Coralie? So if I'm a driver and I want to go against the direction of Coralie Avenue, I need to reach a point at the far end. Is there another route to take through the neighborhood?
There's a network of streets in the local neighborhood. We're not changing the designation of one-way for vehicles on this street.
Understood, but we're doing that for bikes. Do we have any idea, because it's part of the 10-year plan, do we have any sense of the volume of users today or anticipated with this street? And can you explain to me how you determine those figures?
Daytime 8-hour traffic counts were taken on April 2nd, 2015, at which time 623 motor vehicles were using Coralie, and at that same time 42 cyclists were using Coralie.
42 cyclists. Okay.
In an 8-hour count, that's correct.
In an 8-hour count. Okay, great. I think those are all my questions.
Thank you. Councillor McMahon, questions?
Good morning. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I would just like to ask, what kind of community consultation or outreach have you done with this project proposal?
Through the Speaker, Councillor, can you clarify if you mean specifically for Coralie or generally on the project?
I just mean for the whole project for Woodbine and specifically for Coralie.
An extensive consultation plan was undertaken for the Woodbine, Corley, and Norway bike lanes. We had 2 public meetings, one in each ward, in Councillor McMahon's ward and Councillor Davis's ward, in which we circulated close to 40,000 notices and had people attend the meeting in about numbers of about 200 and received an online feedback form as well.
And then specifically with Corley?
Specifically with Corley, a meeting was held with the principal of the school, as well as the school council representatives and community members that were invited to the meeting to discuss options for the pickup drop-off zone.
And then, okay, that's fantastic, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ford?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have a couple questions for staff. With this particular bike path going down Corley and the school, I'm just looking at a map here. Is it a junior school that is located on Corley?
Through the speaker, Norrie Avenue is a junior public school.
Thank you. And you did mention to a previous question that there is a crosswalk there with a stop sign?
Through the speaker, that is correct.
And is there a crossing guard at that location?
I'm sorry, I'm not aware of it. Councillor McMahon may be aware of that.
Okay, thank you. And you said there was public consultation done with the community and the school administration. Was there any concern that was expressed in moving the school drop-off?
3 options were presented with the principal and the school council, and this was the preferred option. It provided...
Just out of curiosity, what were the other options presented?
There was one option presented to leave the pickup drop-off zone where it is, one option presented to move it eastward along the same street on that side, and the option to move it to the north side.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Speaker. You did talk about the consultation process, but you didn't highlight the results. Could you just highlight the results? Strongly support or somewhat support?
I'll put your time on.
Could you just summarize by saying overall there was strong support for the bike lanes?
Overall, there was over 60% support for the bike lanes, yes.
Thank you very much.
Councillor de Beermaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to staff, I just want to, I maybe wasn't quite listening closely enough. You said the parents, or the school and the parents were given 3 options. Was it further east on the north side, or what, same place or status quo?
Yes, that's correct. There were 3 options presented, one at the current location on the south side, beside the proposed Contraflow bike lane, one east along the same street on the south side, beside the Contraflow bike lane, and one east of Gulfview Avenue on the north side.
So you asked the parents, or the parents who showed up, and the folks that were at the community meetings, you can have your stop at the north side, the south side, or further east, and the parents chose the north side.
We presented an option of the existing location, one location further east, and the north side, and the parents chose the north side.
And that's the side that you're recommending to us today?
That is correct.
So if we want to listen to the parents who actually have children going to the school, we'd probably want to pick the north side just like the parents did.
This is the recommended option based on consultation, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for the questions. Speakers, Councillor Holliday, you held the item down.
Thank you, Speaker. I do have a motion. I wondered if it could be put on the screen. And then I have a photo.
Is it of
Okay, just one sec. Do Do we have Councillor Holliday's motion? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So the motion is simply to refer back the segment of the report that relates to Corley Avenue to have another look at it. And to clarify, this isn't an attempt to quash the installation of the lanes. It's something that I requested at Public Works, was simply another look to see if there was a better way to design this to avoid the school children from having to cross the road. It's interesting, I'm told by others I'm apparently the councillor that doesn't like bike lanes. And I actually say it's not true. I like them, I use them, I ride. I don't ride in the East End, I ride in the West End. I think biking is a great way to get around the city, be it for utilitarian purposes or for recreation. But I think what sets me apart is I have extremely high standards about what the cost-benefit ratio is concerning the installation of lanes. And I have struggled with this a lot. I read this report and this sentence jumped out at me that we are now going to demand that children have to cross a road. Presumably Corley is that busy that we need to put bicycle facilities on it. Most residential streets in my area, I mean, you can safely go down them. And clerks, if you could kindly put up a photo. This is just from Google, this is the site. And you can see in the background where that van is, I think, a stop sign similar to where the drop-off and pickup area is. So I really am scratching my head. I don't understand why we would need to change the ability for parents to simply drop their kids off at the curb. And remember, I mean, this is taken on a nice clear day. Imagine in the wintertime when there's snow and ice on the road, there's snowbanks. Why we would increase a risk level to ensure that we have a bike lane that comes through there on a fairly quiet street. I have the counts that were mentioned before, and on April 2nd, 2015, they surveyed the intersection of Corley Avenue and Woodbine, and Woodbine is where the larger lanes are going through. So that entire intersection for the entire workday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., accommodated 94 bikes. So that counts travel both ways on Woodbine, and that counts travel both ways on Corley and the street across the road, which is Eastwood. And what we found was that 18 bikes emanated from the direction of Corley Avenue, going along with flow. And later in the day, 24 bikes went the other way. And presumably, some or all of those entered the street. We don't really know. But those would be the max count entering and exiting that intersection. So that gives you an idea of volume. So we're talking about putting in capital infrastructure here, some lanes, and the maintenance of those. And the number of bikes are what I can count on my fingers and toes. Now, again, we've got a 10-year cycling plan, and I kind of have to respect that that's the will of council, but I have a particular issue with this one, and that is, as I stated at the beginning, that we are disrupting something related to safety. And that is, we're going to now demand children that didn't have to cross the road to cross a street. And I think that's wrong. I cannot accept that. I cannot do that in good conscience. This is the gravity of what we've got in front of us. It's easy to pass these lanes, but this is a bona fide safety issue. If someone is struck by a car crossing that road, if they're struck by a bike, I don't know, it's on our hands for making this choice. So the motion I have is not to quash this project. It is simply to put the report back to the general manager and please have a second look at it and find out if there's a better way that this can be done. I hope members of council appreciate that and appreciate the earnest concern in this. It's not a political move, but it is more technical in nature, and I am quite concerned with the safety. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a question for you. Councillor McMahon, 3 minutes, clarification of the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hollidday, have you ever been out on Corley Avenue?
No, I ride in the West End.
Sorry?
I ride my bike in the West End, so I have not ridden down Corley Avenue. I had a look at Google to get a pretty good appreciation of the neighborhood. I've read several reports, including a report from 2009 that describes the street, the volume, and it was related to the installation of traffic calming on that street. And it talks about accidents, speeding cars, and different interventions.
Have you met with any residents on the street, parents, teachers, principals?
I think that's your job as the local councillor.
Councillor McMahon,
Yeah.
it's clarification of the motion.
You're worried about children crossing the street do your kids cross the street to get to school?
Councillor McMahon, on the motion, the councillor's referring.
What part of the motion doesn't she understand?
Aren't you concerned about the
Excuse me, Councillor Campbell.
Yeah.
Do you, when you mentioned that, about parents dropping off their kids on the corner, how are the parents coming? What kind of mode of transit are you talking
Councillor
about?
McMahon, I'm sorry, but again, it's just, you need to look at the motion and ask questions on the motion.
What did you
that-
hope to achieve by this motion?
What Councillor Holiday moved. Pardon?
Shiner, let him answer.
Speaker, am I okay to answer that? All right. The intent of this is to request the staff to take a second look to see if there's a way that this can be done without having to require the children to cross the street. And I'm quite happy if they find a solution to report back to council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis to speak.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to first ask my colleagues to calm down a bit. But secondly, I want to first start, actually, let me back up. Let me first start by thanking our staff. I have never seen such a comprehensive consultation process, other than the Bloor lanes, of course, for new bike lanes. They did a superb job. We contacted thousands of people. We had meetings that were attended by hundreds of people. We had an online survey. It was an exceptional outreach and consultation. And the results of the consultation were a strong majority supported the bike lanes. And I have to say, this is quite a different experience than the last set of bike lanes that we did in East York. I think overall there is just such a change in attitude about cycling and a growing participation level in terms of cycling. We had not only, so the bike lane itself is going to accommodate we're going to reduce the lane. The traffic flow is going to be accommodated. We're maintaining the turns. There will be now parking only on one side, but that parking on one side will be 24/7. They won't have to move their cars during rush hour in the morning and rush hour in the afternoon. They will now be able to get permit parking on that street, which will be a real plus for the residents. The way that the bike lane is being designed, it will put cars and the bike lane between pedestrians on the sidewalk. This will make this street safer for everyone. And I think that's the number one benefit of this installation of the bike lanes. And not only did our overall consultation identify support, I personally went and knocked on all the doors on Woodbine, like I did on the last bike lane, to see what the people who are most directly affected thought. And I can tell you from that canvassing, 84% either supported or strongly supported the bike lanes on Woodbine. It was amazing. I was shocked, really. And the number of people who didn't have cars, who were using public transit and were cycling, was a significant proportion of the people who live there. So I have no doubts that the people who are living in this area and who are most directly affected support the bike lanes. I was also quite struck by the recent Forum research poll that everyone, I assume, read the other day in the Toronto Star. It said the residents of East York supported bike lanes 79%, the highest response rate, I think, in the city. It was amazing. So there's a high degree of public support for bike lanes. The directly affected residents support the bike lanes, and so do I. And I'll be voting, of course, for the recommendations that are before us. It will create a safer street for residents. It will provide connectivity. That's the other thing that's so important. It will provide connectivity and begin to expand the network of bike lanes in the city. And I know that Councillor de Beermaker, who almost every day cycles from Scarborough, one of the places we need to get people across to come down into the old cities of East York and the borough and the cities of Toronto is across the Woodbine Bridge and down Woodbine Avenue. That will open up at St. Clair is the next bike lane to come. It will allow the Scarborough residents to come safely into a network of lanes. I'm hoping that at some point, and I wish Councillor Holland were here, that we will see again bike lanes on Pharmacy. And, oh, where is she? Anyway, because I do think we need to build this network east. There are many, many more people who would like to be able to ride to work. So thank you, everyone, for a great job in the Transportation Division, and I will be supporting this recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor McMahon?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So I encourage you not to support Councillor Holliday's motion. I'm the local councillor. I live in the area. I know the area. I know families at that school. We have done extensive outreach. As with anything I do, I always do a lot of outreach, especially with bicycle lanes, because I know that there are differing opinions. So, as you know, city staff have done community consultations with us in both Councillor Davis's ward and my ward. Councillor Davis and I, on different occasions, door knocked extensively up and down Woodbine to get to know our neighbours and their opinions. And my office also did Corley and Norway. Customer service right to the door. We've also engaged, as you heard, with the parent council at the school. So those are parents, Councillor Holliday, who live in the area and take their children to school. So who else better knows the street than those parents? The principal of the school, the teachers of the school. They came up with the plan. It's a homegrown, homemade plan to keep their street safe. Why would we not respect that? We've also done an online survey and information in social media, extensive outreach and knowledge in the local papers about the bike lanes. So there is tremendous support. We're very excited to have them. We know it's been proven time and time again, as with Richmond, Adelaide, as with Harvard, as with Bloor now, hopefully the Danny soon, is if you build it, they will come. That the ridership almost quadruples when you build safe infrastructure. People want a bike to work, to school, to play, but they want to do it safely. And Woodbine is a natural north-south street to have another lane down, because the furthest east we have is Greenwood. It's a little rickety-rockety. It needs a resurfacing, and we have nothing that would connect the Danny, the O'Connor, right down to the beach. It's a perfect fit, and so are the connecting routes of Corley and Norway. We, councillors, you supported, most of you, you approved and supported and voted wholeheartedly to support our 10-year cycling plan. This is part of it. So this is how it's going to roll out. It's going to be a little quicker because we have a plan and funding, and there's great, the staff have done a tremendous job, as our cycling advocacy groups have, so we're rolling these out. But you supported it, so here it is. I too have children. They're older now, but they did go to school. They walked to school, and they had to cross roads. We want to encourage our kids to be independent, to learn how to cross a road safely. I would challenge Councillor Holliday if he thought that his children did not cross one single road when they had to walk to school. I've even done walkability summits in our area, trying to get kids to learn how to walk to school in a safer manner. This is actually, bike lanes, as we've learned, infrastructure creates safety for all users of the road, for car drivers, for pedestrians, and for cyclists. Why wouldn't we want this? We've done the research, we've done the extensive outreach. This is my neighborhood, my ward, I know it. Please support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ford to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm standing this morning in support of Councillor Holliday's motion. I'd like to echo what Councillor Holliday said, is that I too bike in the West End and love doing that. I know I may stand with a certain perception about me, we all may have, but no, I do support cycling. But coming from the TDSB, I also recognize that for our students in the West End and across the city, we do face some issues and safety concerns with commuting to and from school. And my concern here is that, in essence, we are moving a student drop-off location across the street, and the first thing that hits me is the fact of whether it is cyclists, whether it is motorists, the human factor and rolling stop signs, and that concerns me. I did not get an answer from staff whether there is a crossing guard there. So that's why I will be supporting sending it back and looking at that. I think it's about making it work and making it as safe as possible for our students to get to and from school. The other thing and comment that struck me with staff is that this site is a junior school. So this site has our youngest students who are commuting to school from 4 years old up to 11 years old. So that is a concern with me. So I will be supporting Councillor Holliday's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor De Baermaeker to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will be supporting the staff recommendations, and I will not be supporting Councillor Holliday's motion. And I guess I speak as somebody who's actually uses that road on a regular basis on a bike. I was elected 13 years ago, and I'm cycled. No, that'll be in a couple of years, I think. But I'm still using pedal power to get into City Hall and back. And so for 13 years, I've been using that very road to get me from it's on my way from the East End to the West End on my 20K ride into City Hall. I would describe that street as a sleepy little residential street. It's going to be improved when you have cars on one side, and you're going to formalize where they go, where they park, where everybody gets out. Right now, people park on both sides of the street. It's not the end of the world. Kids run across the street from both sides because some are getting picked up, some are being dropped off. Again, it is a sleepy little residential street that's more or less, I'll say, organized informally now. So for staff and the local councillors to come up with a plan, and staff to come up with a plan that formalizes something that makes it safer for pedestrians and cyclists and for children, I think is a very logical step. I'm assuming that the principal of the school loves children. I'm assuming that all the parents love their children and wouldn't support an option that they thought in any way might in any way bring harm to their children. So when the parents of those children say, yes, we want to park on the north side of the street, it makes more sense for us, and it's actually more convenient for us when you look at the traffic patterns there. I'm going to support the parents, support the staff recommendation, and support the two local councillors who've done work there. And again, I just want you to know I speak as somebody who uses that road not on a daily basis but on a weekly basis for 13 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Layton to
Thank you,
speak.
Madam Speaker. Just very quickly, I'd like to echo Councillor De Baermaeker's points. We approve these citywide plans with the expectation that then we all go back to our respective communities and do the groundwork. And I appreciate that the councillors from Etobicoke are suggesting that that work was not done. It's my experience that Councillors Davis and Councillors McMahon are very diligent in their community work. They would have done all the necessary outreach to discuss the issue with the residents, with those involved at the school, and they wouldn't bring this forward until they were confident that they were doing the right thing by everyone in that community. And I say that from experience doing much of the similar work in my own ward, and I know that while I'm sort of new as well, our friends from Etobicoke are also new. They'll, I think, gain through experience that the local city councillors have that unique perspective because they are living and breathing that work on that street, the issues that affect that street every day, and in some cases, not only every day of the work week, but every day of the week. We talk to our constituents when we're out in the community, when we're shopping for groceries, when we're biking to or taking the subway to work, and I can tell you that Councillor McMahon and Councillor Davis do their job very well, and I'm confident that they're taking into account the local circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Karygiannis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've raised 5 daughters, and 5 of them are teachers. I had this conversation with a few of my daughters last night about dropping off kids across the street. And my daughters, the oldest one, says, "Dad, you got to be crazy." I said, "No, this is the proposal." It says children have a tendency not to look at both ways, children to have a tendency to run across the street in order to go to school. So I say to you that this could be a recipe for an accident to happen, not because children will run across the street, but because some of the riders that we have that ride bicycles, and you can see them downtown, they go up one-way street, they don't acknowledge the rules of the road, they don't respect the rules of the road, and if we were to go up one-way street, we'll get a ticket. Unfortunately, a lot of people that ride bicycles do not. So I'm going to support Councillor Holiday's motion for us to take another look at it, and I want to thank my councillor colleague from the Beaches for carrying a conversation and not paying attention about her ward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Shiner.
So, Madam Speaker,
Yes.
I rise because guys, for 1 sec. I rise because I've heard the comment, well, this is not your area, so you really shouldn't get involved. And that's not right, because everyone here has to vote on the item. And if you're going to vote on the item, you have to feel comfortable with the support that you're giving to the recommendations that are in front of you. And I understand Councillor Holiday's concern about the front of the school, because in the former areas of North York always, guys, for 1 second. The former areas of North York, all the areas in the front of the school were no parking. I think the same as Scarborough and others, and it was parking across the road, so you get out of the car and take your kids across the road. It was moved because the parents were stopping in the no stopping zones anyways, and both sides of the street were busy, so it was moved in front of the street. So now it's become common practice to put the pick up and drop off in front of the school so the kids don't run across it, and that's where the bike lane suggested. So I'm being asked now, will I support putting the pick up and drop off across the road again so the parents will go in that direction with their kids? And that's important for us to consider because we're making that decision. So in this particular case, and I think every member of council, if they're voting, should understand the issue as best they can and vote on it in full conscious of what it is and what they think is right. So I appreciate the fact that Councillor Holiday may have a concern. On this particular one, I've spoken to staff, and my understanding is that the parents said that they'd like to move the pickup and drop off across the road, and they're prepared to be there. And that's where they want it. Well, I also learned what's called the 85th percentile in transportation. And any of you that may be new on council and ask, well, how come my residents say someone's speeding and you don't have it in your traffic reports? Well, that's because they say 15% of the people don't ever obey the rules. So we take them off the list. So my comment here is, and more to the local councillor as well, who's really worried about it, but Councillor McMahon. Councillor Holiday for a minute. Councillor McMahon. I understand what's trying to be achieved here, and it may very well work. But the only way that it's going to work is if the school itself sends out some monitors to the curb to make sure that those 15% of the parents that never obey or are too lazy to go across the road or are rushing because the kids are late don't stop in now what we're creating, which is the worst spot. Not just crossing on the road, but a bike lane. And the school has to monitor this, and our transportation service has to keep an eye on it because it's different to make sure that the rules are obeyed and that people stop in the right spot, and then the bike lane will work. But if they don't, we'll be creating a hazard area that might be even worse. I'm more than prepared to support it now because the parents say that they're going to work on it, the school is going to, but truly, this is an area where there has to be some ongoing monitoring, some support, and make sure that it stays in a safe zone because signs alone and painted stripes on a street aren't going to do it.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I rise to support the local councillors. And it's a very difficult situation here. And as I like to also refer back to Councillor Shiner in what he said. All our drop-off zones have been moved towards the side of the school. But on this occasion, they're trying to put the bike lanes on the side of the school so that encourage the students to cycle to school. So it's weighing off, and if the parents are willing to do the work of continuous education to ensure that it's continuous, the message is continuous, they've got to look both ways before you cross the road, I believe that the local councillor should be supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Matlow.
I simply want to rise in support of the local councillors and city staff's recommendations. When any of us get a call from a resident on a street and they tell us intuitively, you must do something with my street to make it safer, do you immediately just say yes? Or do you ask, have you spoken with your neighbors? Should we engage transportation staff and the police? Should we do something that looks like we're making it safer, or should we do something that substantively might help? Well, the only two people in this room who I know live in that community and have consulted deeply with that community are Councillors Davis and McMahon. Any of these thoughts that we've come up with on the floor today that they may or may not have considered, do we not have enough confidence in them that they might have actually considered that and struggled with all those options with the community? That staff hadn't done their due diligence to consider the different options but then come up with a recommendation that would be perhaps the best. So unless any one of us have done more consultation, have spoken with staff, have represent that community in the way that Councillors Davis and McMahon do, then I encourage us all to have enough confidence in the local councillors as you would want yourself, frankly, to support what they're asking us to do today for their residents.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Menon Wong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I will likely support Councillor McMahon's, what Councillor McMahon wants, but I do want to say something. There's a reason why these reports are in this council chamber. So if we just wanted the local councillor to make this decision, we would have delegated this at community council, but this is in front of us because we're expected to read it and we're expected to apply a critical eye to it. And if we think that we can make suggestions or changes, we should do that. Now, Councillor Holiday has actually read the report and he has some concerns. He raised those concerns, I believe, at the Public Works Committee, and he's brought these concerns to council. So the idea that members of council should not and cannot and must not ask questions about somebody else's ward that is before us in this chamber is false and should be rejected. It's in front of us because it's supposed to be scrutinized. And this idea that it's their ward and they know best, well, that counts for something. But I think that Councillor Holliday's questions, just because he hasn't been there, should be respected. And the fact that he wants to send it back to have a second look, he's not saying don't do it. Right? I think that's what you want to do. You want to send it back to have a second look. Right? And so it's a legitimate concern, and I think this idea that you can't talk about anything in someone else's ward is completely false, and we shouldn't entertain those arrangements.
Thank you. I like your shirt. Okay, so we'll put the motion. Councillor Davis.
I was remiss. I also received a petition from the Woodbine Heights Residents Association, although it was in a format that was unacceptable for council, and so I simply want to note that I did receive a petition of over 300 from the local Residents Association in support. Thank you.
Okay, if we can put the motion on the screen by Councillor Holladay. It's the only motion we have. Recorded vote.
Councillor Palacio, please. Councillor Holland. Councillor Crisanti.
The motion does not carry. The vote is 7 to 28.
Okay, on the item, pardon? Recorded vote? Councillor Holladay, you got up a point of order?
Yes, thank you, Speaker. May I request that item number 2, recommendation number 2, be voted separately as that pertains to this particular street?
Madam Speaker.
Pardon?
I'd like to move that we reopen it. I voted on the
winning side.
Councillor Mihevc?
He does care. He does care, and he has that
It's the
right.
first time in 2 years.
Others have done it.
Okay, well, what is the request? I've got people screaming at me. I don't know what they're asking.
Reopen the item on the deferral.
Yes?
To vote.
You want to reopen it?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, for allow revote. All in favor of reopening the vote to, okay.
Hey, Joe, this is what happens when you're not the young guy in council anymore. You start to forget.
Okay, the motion is on the screen. Councillor Mihevc, pay attention.
Councillor Holland and Councillor Crisanti and Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Crisanti, please.
The motion does not carry. The vote is 6 to 29.
Okay. All right, so there's been a, okay, members, please, there's been a request. So Councillor Holladay, you want to vote on recommendation 2 separately, is that it? Okay. So let's vote on recommendation 2 now, okay? So you want a recorded vote? Okay. Recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor Wong-Tam.
Councillor Burnside, please. Thank you.
Recommendation 2 carries 33 to 2.
Okay, now on 1, 3, and 4, the balance. All in favor? Who asked for recorded vote? Recorded vote.
Councillor Filion and Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor Layton.
The balance of the item carries 35, it's unanimous, 35 in favor.
Page 2, NY 16.47. Application to consider appeal concerning one first-party wall sign. Councillor Filion, it's at 220 Shepherd Avenue. Councillor Filion, you held the item down. Do you have questions to staff?
No, no questions to staff, just a motion.
Okay, well, hold on. We have questions. Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong, you have questions?
Yes, thank you. So there's a process for these signs. This went to the sign committee, yes? Oh, my.
Through the Speaker, yes, this did go through the sign variance committee.
This was approved by the sign variance committee?
That is correct.
Okay, thanks. So there's a process that can be appealed, and so let me see here. So there are a number of criteria. So the proposed sign belongs to a sign class permitted to the sign district. That is yes, correct?
That is correct.
The proposed sign is a sign type permitted in the sign. So so there are two items related to this. The proposed sign belongs to a sign class permitted in the sign district. Secondly, in the case of a third-party sign, the proposed sign is of a sign type permitted in the sign district. That's a yes as well, yes? Correct?
Through the Speaker, it's a first-party sign.
I'm just saying that you said
okay, yes.
Here. Yeah, there are a lot of yeses. The proposed sign supports the official plan objectives for the subject premises and surrounding area. It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. The proposed sign does not adversely affect adjacent premises. It doesn't affect adjacent premises, does it?
Yes,
your
it does.
Evaluation said what?
Yes. Yes.
Does not affect it. And the proposed sign does not adversely affect public safety, does it?
That is correct.
And the proposed sign is not a sign prohibited by 694-15B.
That is correct.
Right. So there's only, and again, Community Council actually supported this sign variance, yes?
That is correct.
It's installation of this sign. Okay, so the only one that you said is there's not sufficient, maybe you can help me here, you had one interesting reason why the proposed sign is, you said there's not enough proof that it's compatible. Is that essentially what you said?
That is correct.
But you haven't actually said that it's not compatible, have you?
Through the Speaker, when we looked at this first-party sign, we looked at the compatibility with the neighborhood. And in this area, it's primarily smaller one-story converted bungalows, residential buildings to the south of it. And this is a sign on the third story on a mixed-use building.
So on this first-party sign, it's not an advertisement, it doesn't affect the homes. You've said that. Here, it doesn't affect residential. That's one of your criteria, isn't it?
Through the speaker, is it could affect the homes to the south because it's not.
So the proposed sign supports the official plan objectives. It does not affect adjacent residents, does not affect public safety, but you say it doesn't fit in with the community. Can you square that for me?
Through the speaker, our reasons why we had recommended refusal is for the compatibility with the adjacent neighborhood. So the area is primarily one-story residential buildings that have been, some of them have been converted to commercial uses.
But along the street, if you look at the pictures, there are other businesses there as well, right? The only difference is this is one story larger, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Fillion.
Yeah, just to try to make it simple, a question of the staff. Did you recommend against this sign?
Yes, we did,
And why did you recommend against it?
because of the compatibility with the neighborhood.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Shiner.
So, you recommended against it because of the compatibility, because this building's a taller building and it would overshadow and brighten up some of the homes on the other side of the road that aren't on Shepherd Avenue. That's generally the context of it.
That is correct.
Are there other buildings with signs like this in the area?
There is one building about a block away that has a sign at the third level, a first-party sign.
Is there any controls being recommended as to the hours that the sign would be lit or not lit?
Through the speaker, the sign would be subject to the bylaw requirements where it would have to shut down between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m.
If it was shut off earlier, would that minimize the impact?
That, through the speaker, that would reduce the impact. That could reduce the impact.
And then it went to the sign variance committee who recommended it, but your recommendations were not to recommend it, is that correct?
That is correct.
Your recommendations, I think you got this question yesterday. Would you normally, if it was outside the bylaw, recommend against it? Or would you judge each one on their independence?
Through the speaker, we would look at each one on the merits of the sign individually.
Okay. Thank you.
To speak, Councillor Fillion.
Very simple motion, which is up on the screen. Basically, that we support the city bylaw, the staff recommendations, the local community, and the local councillor. I don't know whether this is spillover from other sign debates or whatever, but this is just a clear case. We shouldn't even be wasting our time here with this. We have a major street, Shepherd Avenue, that's currently undergoing a revitalization. That's not in the report because the sign staff wouldn't have been aware of it, but there is a report coming to North York Community Council next month that proposing a new secondary plan for this section of Shepherd Avenue, which will make it almost entirely residential, which would cause this sign to be shining in the windows of the residences, which will be built across the street over time, which will set a new, if this was approved, would set a new standard for signage in an area that we're trying to fix up and clean up. And as we know that signs that don't conform to the bylaw are a little bit like mold. They just kind of spread. And signs that don't fit the bylaw and that staff recommend against but get approved politically anyway, for whatever reason, seem to beget more signs of the same kind. So it is not, there is no reason to approve this sign. It's like when people build a building in the area, good for them, glad to see this building built, just put on signs that conform to the city's bylaws. There's no problem with identifying your business and doing so within the city's bylaws. So it's a really simple issue. It's a local issue, but it's support the city's bylaws, support the planning staff, support the local community that does not want to start seeing these kinds of signs, and frankly support the local councillor, but because of all of the above.
Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I'll agree with from what the previous speaker said was this is a clear case. It's a clear case of that we should approve this sign. So we're not talking about a big, massive sign like down at the CNE. This sign is 1 meter by 1 1/3 meter. It's not a sign. It's not a sign where there's going to be advertisements on it. It's a sign for a business that's in this building. Okay. Now let's go back to how this application was originally approved. It was approved by the sign committee. They couldn't find a reason not to approve it. Okay, and so there is this mechanism where the local councillor can get involved. And he talks to this arrangement where we're using politics to approve the sign. We're using politics to refuse the sign. So 8 out of the 9 criteria says approve the sign, except there's one criteria says that it's not compatible with the community, which is kind of the, if you were going to go to staff and ask if there was this exception type of arrangement, that would be the one where you kind of kill it. But so it doesn't affect the local businesses, it doesn't affect the neighbors, it pretty much doesn't affect anybody. Yet for some reason the staff have somehow found their way around to it. It's not. There's no proof that it's compatible with the local community. What this is, and the only difference is instead of a 2-story building, it's a 3-story building, and there's a sign that's basically a meter big. It's not going to affect anybody. And finally, this was also, we looked at this at North York Community Council, and North York Community Council said that it was okay. So North York Community Council said it was okay, and the sign committee, that's not political at all, they also approved this sign. So I see, this is not, as I say, this is not a big sign that's going to be flashing its lights all night long. It's a little sign for a little business, and I see no reason why we shouldn't approve it.
Thank you. Councillor Shiner.
So, folks, this is becoming a North York Community Council debate here today. Welcome to North York Community Council. It's still around there. I took a look at the plan with the staff and looking at it, trying to decide what's appropriate or not. It's on the north side of Shepherd Avenue, many of you may know. It's generally low-rise, 2-3-story office buildings. It's meant to be stayed that way. This one was built at 3 stories. If you look at the building, though, they built it for the sign to be on the top, 3rd story, when the sign could be in the middle, 2nd story. But they didn't accommodate that in their plans. They came in for an application knowing that the zoning didn't approve it. They went to the sign variance committee, they were granted it, but our process allows it to come to council. I looked at it and I don't know why they just didn't put it on the 2nd story. Because a couple of doors over is an office building I'm aware of, as a relative of mine used to, I believe owned a piece of it and worked there, and they put a podium on the street. And on that podium in front of the building, they put all the offices that are in there. Because you're not advertising to the 401, you're not advertising to people, and in fact, no one's going to see the sign up on the top because it's parallel to the road. You're going to drive by it this way. It's not like you're coming up the street or you're going to see it. The only people that are really going to see the sign are the people in the single-family homes to the south of it that don't live on Shepherd Avenue. They're going to stare at it till 11 o'clock at night. It's not going to be this big focal point on the top of the building. In this particular case, it's easy enough for the applicant to move their sign down that little bit, not impose themselves on the neighbors, put a sign where it's permitted on the building, which is what the council's asking for. It's not a big encumbrance on them. They're not a multinational company. They're not trying to have it out. They simply want to have their name brazened in bright lights at the top of the 3rd story. 3 stars instead of 2. So I'm, in most cases, I might wonder, and I haven't often, or sometimes I agree with Councillor Fillion on the height of the signs on Yonge Street, where I've liked them on the top of the taller buildings because it looks more like an office area, but this area is more of a non-office area. It's along a community stretch behind it, and I think he's right. I'm going to support him.
Councillor Pasternak.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't normally speak on issues like this, but I think it is important for Council to support North York Community Council and the approvals that it gave to this application. It is very important for us to be seen as a council and a government that supports business, that helps them grow, that helps them flourish, that creates wealth and capital, that employs people. The recommendations from North York Community Council is to approve the requested variance. Okay. The report is before us, 1647. And it is very important for us to send a signal that North York is open for business, that you can open a small or medium-sized or a large business there, that our city government will support you and make sure you flourish, that you will be creating a good working environment, a safe working environment, and that you will prosper. The strong arm of government often is the #1 cause for the squashing of entrepreneurs and prosperity in businesses. And the strong arm of government must regulate, but it must not hyper-regulate. And I've taken a close look at this file. We even adopted a special procedure at North York Community Council to take an even closer look. If you look at the report before you, we brought in a very detailed process that is rarely used when scrutinizing a sign application like this. And I urge you to support this business, let it flourish. It is not detracting from the local neighborhood. It is on a major arterial road, and I think it is our responsibility to help businesses flourish.
Thank you. Mayor Tory.
I wasn't going to speak at all on this, Madam Speaker, but I want to speak more about process for just 1 minute, and I'm not seeking to accomplish exactly what I'm going to sort of complain about, I guess, in a way. I just think that we have to sort of have a discussion with ourselves, and today's as good a time to mention it as any, where we have a system set up here where we have staff, people who advise us, we have a specially created sign committee, we have community councils, we have, of course, local councillors, and then we have the city council. And I just want to say to members, I hope you've actually noticed that there's some consistency and a pattern to how I vote on these things, because almost exclusively I will vote with the local councillor on the theory that I'm the mayor, so I don't have a ward that I represent, and who's going to better know, what should be done in a given area than the person who is the local councillor. And if that, for whatever reason, if the local councillor hasn't taken a particular position, I would generally then tend to default to saying, well, if the community council from North York or from East York City, Toronto, or whatever, votes a certain way, I would support that on the theory that that represents the consensus of the views of the community council. And very, very rarely will I cast my vote in such a way as mayor that would try to substitute my vote, my opinion on something for those who are closer to the area and who know better. But it just seems to me that this sign thing is broken. It's broken because, and I think, by the way, that in the case of a sign like the one we dealt with yesterday, it's quite appropriate that should come here. I think there were great claims this was one of the biggest signs in the world, it seemed, or certainly one of the biggest in the city. It was changing a sign that was already there, so I think that one is one that maybe is appropriate for a citywide debate. But this one is much more modest. It's on a major arterial road, and the community council decided a particular way. And so, in this rare instance, I will not support what the local councillor wants, because I don't believe that actually does represent the broader concerns on an arterial street like this. But I wanted to really speak. That's how I'll vote. But I really wanted to speak to the matter of the process, because I think part of what goes on here and takes up our time here, and the same, by the way, could be said of trees. I mean, to me, I just can't fathom the fact that the time is spent in here about trees, where the community council decides one thing and other people have other opinions and the local councillor has an opinion, and we spend time of a city council of 45 people with the issues we have to deal with in this city, having long and repeated and frequent debates about these kinds of things. And so I just wanted to register a word for fixing this process in some way so that we could find something that not only we can respect, but more importantly, that the public can respect. Because I suspect those people who are watching on TV this morning will sort of say, well, wait a minute, you've got a signed committee, you've got a local councillor, you've got a community council, and here is the entire City Council of Toronto with all their different problems sitting here talking about this. And so to me, we should fix the process. I've explained how I'll vote in this instance and how I generally try to vote on these things, but I think we should fix this process and modernize it and make better use of the public's time in how we deal with these things, and I'd say the same of trees while we're at it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. So we have the motion by Councillor Fillion put on the screen. Recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor Karygiannis, thank you.
The motion carries 18 to 16.
Next item, page 2, NY 16.49. The Lawrence Park West Potential Heritage Conservation District. Councillor Jamari held it down. She's not here. Councillor Carmichael Greb, you spoke on it yesterday, so do you want to speak?
Well, I had a motion that I had put up, which has since been amended. Just a couple words, if that could go up.
Yeah, I know.
There's two motions.
Okay, so there's the motion on the screen, and you've amended from the original one that was circulated, correct?
Correct. So now it's just the Study Advisory Committee as part of the Lawrence Park West Heritage Conservation District study. This issue seems to be dividing a neighborhood, so hopefully with this, if it goes through, then with the advisory committee, we can have some people on both sides of the issue being able to have their input on this. But I think this says a lot more for heritage conservation districts that we need to look at, because they do affect every single home in the area. And I think we need to look at ways to make sure that we can get a broader consensus than just having a community meeting on it. I know the studies take a lot of time, a lot of staff time, and I think we need to look at maybe other ways that we can do this to make sure that the entire community has their voice heard.
Thank you. Councillor Burnside to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd just like to move the staff recommendations. I'm the neighboring councillor. This is Councillor Robinson's ward. We're talking about Lawrence, a section of Lawrence Park. It's under a lot of development pressure, and this is simply...
It's already been moved, the staff.
Oh, have it?
Yeah, but you can speak. Go ahead and speak.
I don't need to add to it. It's just other than the fact that it's simply to decide whether this should be a conservation district, and council will have an opportunity to weigh in on that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, we do have a motion as well, an amendment from Councillor Al-Jamari yesterday, right? Oh, this is a staff recommendation. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So all ready to vote? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Carmichael Grebb's motion. All in favor? Carried. Item as amended? Carried. Thank you. Page 2, NY 16.55, bike lanes. Councillor Robinson, you held the item down. Councillor Robinson. No, you didn't. No, okay, hold on. There's questions to staff. Do you have questions, Councillor Robinson?
So I guess my question is, what's the proper process? We have a 10-year master plan for bike lanes in the city, which council actually just recently adopted in early summer. This actually took place at North York Community Council. So what's actually the process? Because I thought usually these types of things go through Public Works and Infrastructure versus North York Community Council.
Public Works and Infrastructure Committee is responsible for approving bike lanes. This particular request directed staff to review these bike lanes. Some of them are in the cycling network plan. One of them is not.
Okay, so why isn't it? Why did you choose a different route than what's being proposed by this new motion put forward at North York Community Council?
In the case of the Dove House route that's mentioned, it was reviewed as part of the cycling network plan, but it was not included within the 10-year plan because there is a parallel route in the plan.
So you chose a different route because you felt it would be more effective as part of the connectivity of the overall master plan, or I guess if you could clarify.
An alternate route provides better connectivity to other routes in the 10-year cycling network plan, so the route on Dove House that was suggested within the member motion was not included in the network plan.
Okay, so if you did indeed write a report, I'm just curious, if you do write a report based on this request and it came to Public Works, what would be the tone of that report, or what would you recommend, given you've already conducted a master plan which council has approved, and this varies from that, and so we've got one individual trying to change the whole master plan adopted by council?
Through the Speaker, the purpose of the 10-year cycling network plan is to help focus city staff resources on the network plan delivery and the work that had been done in terms of the planning and consultation analysis. Our recommendation would be to keep with the routes that were outlined in the network plan.
Which is not what was voted on at North York Community Council.
That is correct.
So you don't agree with what was voted there, but you stand by your original master plan, your 10-year plan.
Through the Speaker, extensive work was undertaken to develop the network plan, and so we want to maintain that plan and focus the resources on the delivery of that plan that was endorsed by Council.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
No more questions? So, Councillor Robinson, you're releasing?
The item. It's a report for Public Works, but I think we have to be cognizant of that we have just recently approved a master plan. And this varies from that, and it's not staff recommendations who, as you've heard, have done extensive consultation and assessment of where the route should be. And for some reason, this landed on the North York Community Council agenda. And this is where we're at, is we're starting to vary the plan at the very first meeting following the adoption of the 10-year master plan that extensive research and consultation went into.
On the item, all in favor? Carried. Our next item is page 2, Toronto and East York Community Council T 18.52, construction staging area for Bathurst Street. Mayor Tory, you held the item? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Madam Speaker, with your concurrence, I realize we'll have to deal with them separately, and I have 3 motions on each of the 3 items, 18.52, 0.56, and 0.57. And those motions have been pre-circulated, and I'll speak only once. It's a 3-for-1 deal in the interest of moving us along here. And I don't, Madam Speaker, at the outset want to go against, you may want to start that clock. I'm just trying to discipline myself. I don't want to go against what I said just a few minutes ago about the will of the Community Council prevailing in this case, but I think what's needed here, I can't even hear myself talk.
Oh, I know.
Speaker.
Please, Councillor Matlow, Councillor Cole, Jennifer Keys-Matt. Vic. Okay.
Mr. Gupta, yeah, he should be singled out for
Yes.
attention too. I don't want to go against what I said earlier on because this was a decision. These 3 were decisions of the Community Council. But I think, to me, if these had come from Etobicoke or from Scarborough, I'd be saying the same thing. I just have chosen a moment in time in which I want to register as the mayor and as someone who's taken a keen interest in transportation in the city, my own dissatisfaction, and I hope members of council will join me in expressing dissatisfaction in the resolution that we end up with in some of these cases. And I will say, by the way, that in many cases, certainly all 3 of these, they come to us, these recommendations, with considerable effort having been put into trying to make these better on the part of the councillors. Councillor Cressy, Councillor McConnell in this case, they've worked hard with the developer and with the city staff to try and do better than this. But I want to stand here today as the mayor and as someone who has expressed a great deal of interest in transportation and keeping the city moving to say these kinds of resolutions that are recommended to us that recommend lane and sidewalk closures for, and by the way, some consequent impact on bicycle lanes in some cases are not good enough. They're not good enough. And I'm addressing that not to anybody in particular because I know the staff are involved, the developers are involved, but I think the time has come where we have to make a statement to everybody involved that the public interest has to play a greater role in these recommendations and our decisions in this regard. What you have here, and I'm pleased to tell you, you'll see the first one on motion on 1852, actually, I think when Councillor Cressy and the staff went back, they were able to make a little bit of a further progress, shall we say, with the developer, and the result is going to be better in terms of less interference with, in this case, car traffic. But on the east side, well, on the Richmond Street, the 2, one east and one west, what you have here is proposals to keep lanes of traffic closed and sidewalks, in one case for 3 years. 3 years. And I think what that's going to do, it sounds strange to connect the two, is it will undermine confidence in the bike lanes. I'm proud of the fact, first of all, that there's so much investment taking place in our city and so much construction. I'm proud of it. It's a positive sign for the city. I'm proud of the fact that we put bike lanes on Richmond and Adelaide, and they're working. I see it with my own eyes, the amount of traffic that's going back and forth at all hours of the day on those bike lanes. But make no mistake, when we do something to close a lane of traffic for 3 years and a sidewalk, if nothing else, it undermines the credibility of the bike lanes, because then people go from a situation where we had a 4-lane road, we actually took a lane out to put in a bike lane, and it was working fine, and then you take it down to 2 lanes and you put a bottleneck in for 3 years, and I think suddenly what you have is an undermining of confidence in us, and an undermining of confidence in the bike lanes, and frankly, a disruption that goes on for too long for people who are walking down the sidewalk or trying to drive their car, and I think it does end up interfering with cyclists as well. And so I understand the fact that it's a balance that we have to achieve, just like we have to achieve a balance these days in the 21st century on sharing the road as between cyclists and people who are pedestrians and people who are driving cars and trucks. But I think somehow this process over time has developed into, I don't want to call it a rubber stamp because that would be a disservice to our staff, but I think certainly the developers have come to think that they can just ask for any period of time they want and just close down lanes of traffic and sidewalks, and that's that. And we tried, when I got here, one of the things we tried with the assistance of staff, and we approved, a dramatic increase in the fees that were paid to close a lane. And I thought that would have an impact, first of all, in fewer applications to begin with to close lanes, because people would say, I don't want to pay that kind of money, I'll find a different way. And secondly, it would impact positively on the duration of those closures when they happen. So people would say, well, instead of asking for 2 years, I'll only ask for 1 year or for 6 months. And in fact, that doesn't seem to have happened. And so these motions are meant to simply put this over until our November meeting, rather than say no, because if we say no, it could cause huge delays in these projects and so forth. This is to put these over with the clear intention that all of those involved, starting respectfully, I say, with our own staff, but through to, importantly, the developers involved, will hear us say, as a council, this is not good enough. And we want you to do more, and we want you to do better, and we want you to take the public interest more into account in the recommendations that we are brought to approve. And that means principally shortening these times up and saying we can do better. In some cases, when we pushed back on one that was up around Yonge and Eglinton, they actually, as we've done with Bathurst here, able to find a way that the lanes of traffic could stay and the sidewalks could stay, and they worked around it. But that may not be possible here. The one on Richmond West is a very complicated piece of land. But I will just say this is a signal to say, please do better, and we'll give them that opportunity over the next month, and it'll come back here. And I'm confident they will do better, just as Councillor Cressy and the staff showed with the one on Bathurst. So that'll be the speeches for all three, Madam Speaker, and I hope members of Council can support this initiative to push back a bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You do have a question from Councillor Matlow.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, Mayor. Near the end of last term, I brought a motion forward to Council that requested that we actually work on ways to prohibit, and I fully agree with you, prohibit the ability of developers to occupy public lanes, whether it be sidewalks or traffic lanes, the way they do today. And the feedback from staff was often that there were various reasons why it was difficult or problematic, or at times if we said no, they would go and sue us and they'd get their way or whatever. May I just ask you for an undertaking to really, use the ability that you have to work with staff to see if there are real ways that you can say to a developer, it may be more expensive to work on your own site and not take over public space as your staging ground, but we need the tools to actually be able to say not just pretty please, but do it. We're serious.
Madam Speaker, through you, I hope I voted in favor of your motion last time, because certainly my wish would be that we could, as other cities have done, actually say this, just with the exception of the very rare case, can't be done. Other cities seem to manage to do that. And I think maybe what's going to be required, and it's not dealing with these three matters, but is maybe a further escalation of the fees so that you get people to the point where they actually, just as a matter of sound business, do say, there are other ways to do this. In New York, they find other ways, and sure, they cost money, but if it gets to the point where the cost of closing the lane is equal to or less, more than the cost of doing something else, they will. So you have that undertaking for me, because I think that should be our objective, that in as few cases as possible, the public interest in the broadest sense is interfered with by what is a private undertaking, albeit a private undertaking that creates places for people to live and work and all that good stuff. So the answer is yes, you have my undertaking on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Fillion, you have a question to the Mayor?
I just wondered, to follow up from Councillor Matlow, if the same applies to the public undertaking work. There was a backup at Bayview and Shepherd today in all directions, lasting 45 minutes because of work that the city was doing in the middle of right at the intersection at rush hour.
In law school they taught me never to ask a question to which you didn't know the answer, and I really don't want this to seem to be critical of you. I presume the work you're referring to is the resurfacing work being done on Bayview.
Yep.
And the city tried, because I had indicated a very strong desire on projects like this to see us work 24/7, to see us work long extended hours to get the stuff done faster. And in this case, you, respectfully, I'd say, registered an objection to that. And so we're forced to work in daytime hours to get this done, and it causes the huge backups. And the backups, I'll concede, would occur regardless because the work's being done. But my objective with the speeding up, which we're doing in I think about 25% of our projects, is designed to get them done much faster so you have much shorter periods. So, look, I hear what you're saying, which isn't to do, but you mentioned the particular example. I think we should be setting an example as well with public undertakings to do the same thing, which is to instruct our staff and the contractors to find ways to do these projects one lane at a time or whatever, such that they don't have to close large sections of the land. But on the one you mentioned, I have to say that we tried, and I still believe we could have got this done with much less overall disruption, including to the local residents with noise, had we been able to work 7/24 or even until 11 o'clock at night.
Would have kept people awake all night if we'd done that. The question wasn't whether it should be done during the day, but should we be managing the construction so that we're not doing the intersection at rush hour.
We're trying, but I will certainly undertake to you as well, Councillor, to take that up with the group that I meet with once a month to discuss these things, because I think that's a fair suggestion that, you know, sauce for the goose, sauce for the gander, and we should try to do these things better. And I think you're right. I mean, doing it in the intersection at rush hour doesn't make a lot of sense.
Thank you. Councillor Perruzza, you have questions to the mayor.
I do, Speaker. He sort of triggered a real interest in me and basically I just wanted to ask him in following Councillor Mantelow's line of thinking, if he would take an undertaking to do the same thing at Keele and Finch, for example, with the subway construction, because what you've had there, it seems to me that everyone, the TTC, the City of Toronto, are essentially powerless in the face of the contractors who occupy our roads. And I'll give them an example of something that I witnessed personally there. The contractor came in and said, we want to close this lane going north on Keele. Obviously, there's lots of restrictions there. We want to close this lane because we have some work to do in that area, and we want to do it faster, so therefore, if we get to close it, the work will be finished faster. So they asked for a 3 or a 4 week permit at that time to do that. We gave them a permit to be able to work overnight and make noise and do all kinds of stuff. Then what they did
question.
My question is this. They basically blocked the lane with these concrete pillars, and for like the month, 2 months that I was there, right across the street in a campaign office, right at the corner, not a single person went to work in that area. They just simply wanted the lane closed because they didn't want to have any contact with the public.
Your question.
And when I raised this, my question is this: when I raised this issue with both the city and the TTC, we are powerless against these contractors who basically threaten to increase the cost, and they basically close these lanes. So would the mayor undertake to take a look at that and get that intersection opened up, because they are killing all of the local businesses, let alone the interruptions that they're
And that was your last question.
I will tell the local Councillor Perruzza that I meet once a month with the people who do this work and all the others involved, and I will raise the issue, because another issue that gets raised with me on a regular basis, Madam Speaker, is lanes that are closed that seem only being used for storage of equipment or whatever, and people just say, why can't you find a different place to store your equipment? Or lanes, of course, that are closed and there's nobody working there, which is why we're moving more to this kind of 7/24 work wherever we can. And so I will undertake to do that. And may I just, before I sit down, on the theory this was the last question, say that I would hope, in the interest of the baseball game, which begins in 1 hour and 45 minutes from now, that the speakers list, I certainly hadn't intended, Madam Speaker, by speaking on a 3-for-1 deal where I could have taken 15 minutes and spoken 3 times on this, to trigger an avalanche of people who want to speak on something where we're essentially sending it away to get the work done. And I would hope that speakers list could, by magic process, vaporize in the next couple of minutes, so maybe one or two people will speak and then we can move on, because I don't want to be guilty of causing what I was talking about earlier on with the time taken in here on these matters. This is being sent away to see if we can do better, both as a policy and in these individual instances.
Well, we have 4 speakers, so let's see.
One just dropped off, so that's good.
Yeah, so. Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't normally speak, but this is important to me. No, I don't. I don't normally speak through these council meetings. I won't speak to any other items. I can just tell you, because my residents use Richmond a lot, there's an express bus. An express bus! Now, the word express can no longer be used for this bus because there's been construction going on there for a number of months now, and it's horrible. And, you know, these developers wish to make it horrible for another 3 years. So I would just say that, and you know, this is maybe a comment to staff, get them to do it on their own property. I mean, if you look at the development at 25 Richmond, they're taking off space on Richmond Road, but they also have space on Victoria and Lombard. Give them those 2 streets and tell them no to Richmond. Simply that. And if it costs them too much money, it's on them. Because, you know, they may be inconvenienced, but the public's going to be inconvenienced for 3 years. It's an easy choice, I think, for most of the public to say what they'd want. This is on the developer. He wants to build on that land. He should take all the inconvenience himself.
Thank you. Councillor McConnell?
Madam Speaker, I'm not quite sure how to do this, and I apologize to the Mayor. I'd forgotten. On 18.56, we need, there's a technical amendment. I think we should amend it and then send it so that when it comes back, it's the correct wording. So I'd like to put that. And then just say that actually Lombard and all of those have been done. They're delegated authorities from a community council, but also the community and the developer in this case have worked together. I have no objection to a month's delay just to get it right, and I support the recommendations of the mayor, but if I could, that needs to be done. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Cressy?
Helps. I'm not sure whether we were actually asked to make a technical amendment. I'm certainly happy if it coincides with the more detailed knowledge the local councillor has to make whatever amendment will make it right. So I didn't hear her actually put it forward, but I'm happy to agree to that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so... Sorry, I understand we can't do it. Yeah, you can't amend and defer. So staff will put it in the report when they report back, okay? All right, we got how many more speakers? 2. Councillor Cressy.
Madam Speaker, and I'll be very brief on account of time. It's just 2 of these items are in my ward, so I wanted to take a moment. You'll notice that Councillor McConnell, Wong Tam, and myself are all speaking, 3 downtown councillors who deal with this issue constantly on a daily basis in our wards, and it's a real challenge for pedestrians, for cyclists, for cars, and for people using public transit. Our offices work to the best of our ability with our staff to mitigate the challenges, the duration, impacts related to detours, construction management plans, getting local artists involved in hoarding. We do a range of things, but it's not enough. Developers should build within their own footprint, full stop. That's how it's done in New York. It's how it should be done here. And in these cases, we've worked closely with the mayor, and as a local councillor, I'm supportive of these amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I will be supporting the motion to defer and to allow the city staff to have some more time to see if they can sculpt the hoarding and to pull it back off of the public right-of-way. I did want to alert members of council, Madam Speaker, is that at Community Council in Toronto East York, we actually receive a number of construction occupancy road requests on a monthly basis. And we actually have been trying at the local level, I think to some degree of success, not as successful as we'd like, to try to bring the hoarding off the public right-of-way, off the curb lane, even off the sidewalk and back onto site. But that's oftentimes a very challenging proposition. And one of the reasons why it's a challenging proposition is because the planning staff have insisted that these properties built right to lot line. So therefore, unless there's secondary staging that's elevated and construction sites that are going to be hosted on site and built on site, we're going to continue to have this struggle and challenge. So I don't think that it would be realistic for us to be able to do this type of work, which is to try to control road management and the public right-of-way to keep it clear without having a coordinated conversation with the planning staff as they are approving these buildings, because there's no way it could be done in downtown Toronto on these very tight sites. You simply have to pull the buildings back. So this is a symptom of what is happening because of the planning process and because of the urban design approach to the city in terms of creating that complete street wall. And so we have been doing the best that we can. I would say the councillors in the core that are struggling with these type of requests for road occupancy, but it has not been successful. So I want to thank the mayor for bringing this, for paying extra attention to this matter. It has been something that I know that we have been struggling with some time, and hopefully through the fact that the mayor has now taken an active and keen interest in pulling all these construction sites back, perhaps the industry will now take notice and pay attention to the fact that it's not just individual councillors or local communities that are asking for some relief off the public realm, but actually it's a city initiative and something that has the authority and the influence of the mayor's office behind it. And the next time round, if they come in and ask for road occupancy, perhaps their ask will not be so aggressive. They don't need to occupy for years and not necessarily have activity on the site, and to not be using the road occupancy for storage of materials and having a much clearer marshalling plan with their construction trucks. All of this can be done, but they have to be much more innovative, much more creative. And right now, as I see it, their approach to road occupancy, I think, is a little bit lazy. There's a sense of entitlement, and that has to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I thought we were ready to vote, but we have another speaker, Councillor Robinson.
Nice introduction. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm actually going to just speak for 30 seconds. There's a photo I want to share with you because I actually took it this morning at Yonge and Lawrence. It is not of a kitten, Glenn. I'm sorry about that. But when Line 1 was down this morning due to an issue, lots of people were out on the street, and this photo I would like to share with you, and also just thank the mayor for bringing this forward. I'm a huge proponent of addressing these types of issues. In my capacity as the Chair of Public Works and Infrastructure, fought hard to get the fees up on these things because I still think they're too low, and I think we need to get them up higher. So this term we've already put them up once. Let's try to do it again. But if you see this photo, this is Yonge and Lawrence, and this is the boundary between Councillor Carmichael Greb and myself. And this development's been in play for what seems for a very long time. And what you'll see, because Marilyn's just trying to get it on the screen for me, and there it is on, just turn your heads to the left. Dramatically, a dramatic shift to the left will, it's a little dark, I'm not the best photographer, but there's no activity on this site. There hasn't been activity for at least 6 months, if not longer. And yet these lovely orange and black cones dot the landscape, cutting off an entire lane on the west boundary of Yonge Street at Yonge and Lawrence. So this is the kind of thing that really drives people crazy, whether you're a cyclist or a motorist or even, quite frankly, a pedestrian. And this has been sitting idle like that for months because they can. And if they can, they will. So I'm very pleased to see the mayor's initiative around this, putting these motions forward, and I fully support them.
On TE 18.52, all in favor? Huh? Yeah, I know. Oh, sorry, that's what I meant. On the mayor's amendment on TE 18.52, all in favor? Carried. Item as amended, all in favor? Carried. On TE 18.56, the mayor's amendment, all in favor? Carried. Item is amended. All in favor? Pardon? Oh, this was the deferral, yeah. Okay. 18.57, the mayor's amendment to defer. All in favor? Carried. Page 2, CC 21.3, declaring the office of Councillor Ward 22. Councillor Lee, you held the item down.
Any questions before I...
Questions to staff? Do we have any questions to staff? Councillor Cressy.
Brief in the interest of time, a couple questions to the clerk. First of all, in setting an election date, can you just confirm that there is discretion if we declare the seat vacant today on your part to ensure that it does not overlap or conflict with a holiday?
Councillor, yes, the Act spells out a formula for getting to setting the election date. First off, Council has to declare the seat vacant at this meeting. That's what the Act requires. From that date, then, I have, as clerk, the discretion to set nomination day from 30 to 60 days thereafter. And then the Act spells out that election day is 45 days after nomination day. So there's ability to look at various holidays and so forth so that we don't end up getting into a problem.
All right, and just to confirm on that, because this may come up, if the seat is declared vacant today and a decision is made to proceed with the by-election, based on that 30 to 60 days, with the discretion on your part, and the 45 days that kicks in thereafter, the election, if we declare it vacant today, could be as late as January the 20th. Is that correct?
Yes, the earliest date would be December 21st. The last date would be Friday, January 20th.
In other words, if we make a decision today to proceed with the by-election based on your discretion, it could actually take place 3 weeks after New Year's Day or before Christmas.
That's correct.
All right, and just to confirm, what date was the provincial by-election called? I'm just pulling on Google here. It was August the 3rd. Is it? All right. Let me ask a question to speed up the time. If, in fact, it was called on August the 3rd, if we make a decision today, there would be a 5 to 6 month gap between the date the by-election was called and the seat being filled. Would that be
Yes,
correct?
that seems right.
A 5 to 6 month period. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burnside, questions?
Through you to the clerk. 2018, when's the last council session?
That calendar, that council calendar hasn't been established.
Traditionally, when would it be?
But-
July, August?
Normally, it would be, yes, August. That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. Council has not met after nomination day for quite some time.
Councillor Fletcher, question?
There are a number of people discussing having an appointment, and I would just ask if you could advise us what the practice has been when we're 2 years out from another municipal election. Has it not been to hold a by-election?
The Act actually gives council the discretion to determine whether it wishes to appoint or whether it wishes a by-election. The only time council is required to appoint is if the vacancy arises after March 31st in the year of the election. So that's what the statute says.
That's the statute, but as far as city council in its in its practice, while you've been the clerk, the practice has been to have a by-election if there's this much time, has it not?
Yes, I would say, generally speaking, that's been the case.
That's been the practice of a city council. Thank you.
Thank you. To speak, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, why I'm holding this, and I got a motion that, I'm moving actually recommendation 1, which is to declare the seat vacant, and that the City Council defer the decision on how to fill the vacancy in Ward 42 to November 8th and 9th, 2016 City Council meeting. And I'll tell you why, because ever since that the seat became vacant, or even before that, I have been taking calls from Ward 42 residents, because being the councillor next, just immediately to the west of Ward 42, and the ward that's south of Ward 42, Ward 44, the councillor is unfortunately not able to help because he himself is out of commission and recovering from treatment, medical treatment. But anyways, in fact, yesterday at lunch, I held a meeting with TTC and Transportation to iron out an issue of removing 2 TTC bus stops, which impacts Ward 42 residents the most. Okay, so we're able to resolve, or rather working towards a resolution of that. So some residents of Ward 42 had come to see me last Friday after the agenda was published, and says that what is council going to be doing on this? I says, likely it's going to be a by-election because of the length of time left in the term, just as Councillor Fletcher's question you heard. Normally, if it's more than 1/3, just as we did 2 appointments last term of office. Okay, so I says, why do you, ask? Okay, they says, why don't council just do an appointment? Okay. So yesterday morning, I got a petition signed by over 900, with 900 signatures on it, and the petition says, petition to Toronto Mayor and City Council, stop the musical chairs in Scarborough Bruce River. Background, stop the musical chairs. Background, January 2016, by-election for school trustee in Scarborough Bruce River. September 2016, by-election for MPP in Scarborough Bruce River. October 2016, vacant seat in Scarborough, another by-election. So, petition 4, we, the undersigned, are residents of City of Toronto and are concerned local citizens who urge our mayor and our city councillors to stop the political musical chairs in Scarborough Bruce River, for which we are petitioning. This year alone, we have already endured 2 by-elections and spent more than $500,000. If council allows another by-election to fill the vacant Scarborough Bruce River Ward 42's council seat, that will most likely participate in another by-election for school trustee seat. We have had enough elections in this area. Please appoint a capable person. So this is a petition I got, which I will turn over to the clerk.
I'm sorry.
And when I looked at the elections in October 2015, when there was federal election, and in January 2016, the by-election for school trustee, the turnout was 11.3%. And in the recent September by-election for the vacant provincial MPP seat, the turnout was 28.1%. So the voter turnout is very low. So is that really democracy? So anyways, this is what we are requesting. We have been requested by residents in the area to look at this. So I am deferring the decision until November to hear more from the residents in the area, whether they want a by-election or an appointment. So this just will deferral in no way impacts or rather suggests whether we should have an appointment or by-election. It just gives time for the residents of Ward 42 to provide that input to us. Okay, so I hope that you give them that time to provide that input, and then on November 8th and 9th, Council will then use that input to make the decision.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
On behalf of the residents of Ward 42.
Yes, we have some questions here for you. Councillor Perks, 3 minutes clarification of the motion.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to understand. You read us a petition encouraging us to appoint a replacement councillor, but your motion doesn't do that. Do I understand that correctly? You're not moving to appoint somebody?
No, I'm not moving to appoint somebody. I'm just moving to defer the decision to hear back from residents. Because the most impacted people are the residents of Ward 42.
I understand.
Not us, not our residents.
I understand, but the petition you read said that we should appoint. I'm wondering, how does deferring the decision help the residents who want an appointment? Well, if you're doing what the residents are asking for, shouldn't you just move an appointment?
No, because as I said earlier, the tradition on council has been traditionally that if it's more than 1/3 of the term left, then we normally call a by-election. But in this case, the residents are asking for that for the appointment. I'm not moving it because I'm not satisfied that I've heard enough from the residents of the Ward 42.
Okay.
So
that's why I'm not moving the appointment because...
Okay, I just want to understand. So you're deferring it in order for you to spend a month consulting with the residents before we make a decision? Is that what you're...
The residents, I will work with the Ward 42 office to outreach to residents and let them feed back to the various city councillors as to what they want.
So, okay, so you want Councillor Chin Lee to have an extra month to consult with the residents about whether or not they should be represented, and during that month they won't be represented.
Right now they are not represented anyways, and for the next at least 3 months they won't be represented. So to the people that's asking me, to delay this until they have had enough time to get other input from other people.
I'm sorry,
okay, I'm not happy.
I'm sorry, I must have misheard your petition. Was there a separate petition asking you to delay?
No, there's no petition to ask me to delay. The petition is to ask for an appointment. But I myself am not, because my answer to them originally was that there will normally be a by-election because it's more than 1/3 of the term. But the request is coming from the residents. So I think we need to give them time to provide further feedback to us, because they are the ones that are asking for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Cressy.
Just a point of clarification. You referenced a petition that the residents were requesting, if I understand, an appointment. You also referenced a petition that talked about a future TDSB by-election. I don't understand what that is.
I think when in my discussions with the residents, they were saying that they were likely, the person that will run will be the current school trustee in the area.
Sorry,
So there's a chance that he will win.
Sorry,
there could possibly be a by-election for that vacancy as well.
Sorry, just let me understand. So the petition is stating that there are some residents who feel that they want an appointment because a current trustee may run, and that's the petition you're bringing forward to us for consideration?
That's what they are putting in the petition.
So
it's not my petition.
So we're supposed, just wait, are we supposed, a point of clarification?
Just a sec. Hold on, Councillor Thompson. Yeah.
My microphone. I thought that we asked questions for clarification on motions.
We did.
The councillor has introduced a petition that presumably came from the residents, which he hasn't created. So I'm just wondering why we have line of questioning about the petition and not the motion.
Well, he's answering.
Well,
Councillor
the-
Councillor Cressy, on his motion only, not on the petition.
So if I could understand your motion, because it was in part you are bringing this forward in part because what your constituents requested.
Not my constituents, Ward 42 residents.
So Ward 42 constituents are requesting a deferral because or an appointment because they're worried a current school trustee may run for council. Is that correct?
They are requesting an appointment, but I am moving the deferral. I'm not moving the appointment.
But did you
I'm
not
moving
just-
deferral
did you not-
to get more input from the
Councillor
residents of
Cressy,
Ward 42.
But I'm just clarifying, did you not just say that they're requesting an appointment because they're worried about a school
Councillor
trustee
Cressy, I
running?
think that Councillor Lee has answered that question.
Thank you.
It's getting very confusing. Councillor Pasternak, did you want a
Yes.
clarification?
Yes, just clarification. My understanding of your comments is the good people of Scarborough would like political stability.
To a certain extent, that is the
Okay,
line of,
Coun-
like thinking that
Councillor
they have. But the thing is that, in the end, it's a council that makes the decision.
Okay, Councillor Lee, okay, I think
The
we
petition is
have,
not
I think that we've had enough clarification on that motion. It's very clear. Councillor Cressy to speak. No. But Councillor, then ask a question on the motion.
Okay, my second set of questions was
Yes.
geared.
Yes.
This political stability question was a segue into the merits of deferral. And the merits of deferral, as I would understand it, to give more candidates the opportunity to potentially run, to create a more vibrant political debate, and create a balance of views should a by-election take place.
Well, you can imbue anything you want into what petition. The petition asked for.
I didn't ask about the
And I'm
petition.
I'm just asking for deferral so that we can hear back more information from the residents of Ward 42.
So feedback, political
Feedback, yes.
Okay.
As to what the residents in the area want.
So
I only heard from a few.
So
okay?
democracy
Or
is
some,
important.
okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Cressy to speak.
No, it's not a deferral motion, that's an amendment. I have a motion, if it can be put on the screen, and it is that City Council adopt the following option: B, by-election recommendation. We've heard from the clerk that the practice in this chamber is that when there is 2 years out, we proceed, well, 1 year out, but if there are 2 years out, we proceed with a by-election. That's common practice. Consider how much we have done in our 2 years, nearly 2 years here, and consider how much more that person, he or she, would accomplish in 2 years. A by-election is clear. Now, the residents of Ward 42 deserve representation. If we proceed with the by-election today, it will be between 5 and 6 months between when the provincial by-election was called and when they get a councillor. That's a big gap. Now, the move to defer this by a month, let's talk about that. We would still have a winter by-election. So the arguments that having an election in the winter don't hold water. It is at the clerk's discretion, as the clerk stated, and the by-election could take place before Christmas or 3 weeks after New Year's Day. So it will not be interrupted by the holiday period being immediately before or after. The argument that, as we've heard, that we currently have an absent councillor in Ward 44 for health reasons, and then we have a vacant seat in Ward 42, that means we have 2 councillors vacant in Scarborough. The sooner we fill that seat, the sooner the residents of Scarborough will be represented. There is absolutely no argument in the public interest to defer, but there is a political argument. You heard it. The only argument to defer it here is because there are some in this chamber who would rather find a different candidate. That's the only reason. If we are serving the public interest and we are serving the residents of Scarborough, we move to a by-election. If you're serving the political interest to find a candidate, you defer. That's what this debate is about. Let's be honest and do it in full light in front of the public and the media. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Watching baseball.
Councillor Karygiannis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Clarification of the motion. The councillor said that people were not represented for 6 months. Did he mean to say that Councillor Cho was absent for 6 months?
No, the date the by-election was called, the provincial by-election in Scarborough Rouge River, was on August the 3rd. So the date when he started campaigning for the provincial election was on August the 3rd.
Wasn't he still the councillor and getting paid?
Well, I think you should ask him.
Are you suggesting that maybe if people are running for other office from this chamber, we should ask them to resign?
No, I'm simply...
This is what you're suggesting.
Councillor, that's not clarification of the motion.
It's fine.
Thank you,
It's
Madam
fine.
Chair.
The date the provincial by-election was called was August the 3rd, and the date that it would be filled would be between December the 21st and January the 20th. The timeline between those two dates is 5 to 6 months. You can interpret it a different way if you so please, but that is 5 to 6 months.
Thank you. Councillor Ford to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I did have a motion ready, but it's been, Councillor Cressy didn't move that. So I am standing in support of Councillor Cressy's motion. I can speak from personal experience about having gone through a by-election that this council approved, but it was also delayed in a different circumstance at the time, of course. But having said that, when I took office a couple months ago, there was an overwhelming amount of work that had to get done in the ward and needed the councillor to work with staff on to move that forward and for our staff to get through. Having said that, I believe very strongly that the residents of Scarborough have the right to be represented in a timely fashion. There may be arguments out there about playing the political game, per se. I don't think that's our right to be speculating that. And I don't think it's our right to be speculating what's going to happen at the Toronto District School Board. It's our right to make sure this city moves forward and the residents are represented. So I am strongly in favor of Councillor Cressy's motion to move forward and give the people of Scarborough a voice. Thank you.
Councillor de Bearmaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll be supporting Councillor Lee's motion, and I would ask my colleagues from across the city to, again, try and listen to the people who are actually elected in Scarborough to see what their thoughts are about the future for their part of the city. I think I've talked to Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Lee, Councillor Karygiannis, Councillor Holland, and Councillor Crawford. I think every Scarborough councillor who's here today supports Councillor Lee's motion. So it's amazing that the people who represent close to 600,000 and 25,000 people, because we have Councillor Cho's not here, are ignored by the other some parts of the city. It's almost like the Scarborough subway debate all over again. We represent our residents, and it's very simple. When you look at the dates that the clerk told us, the earliest, the window for the election, if we do things today, is December the 21st is the earliest. You tell me which one of you would be happy with a by-election in your area on December the 21st, a couple days before Christmas. That's what you want us to do? But wait, that's the earliest date. The latest date is January the 20th, which means you'd be having nominations close at Christmas time, when people are busy celebrating their holy days, they're celebrating with family, they're going on vacation, they're taking care of their kids. And then, of course, you might start your campaign, if you're lucky, on January the 1st, the first snowstorm, to get there for January the 20th. So from my perspective, and the unanimous, I think, consensus of every Scarborough councillor, is that having a by-election in Scarborough, in the northeast part of the city, out by the polar bears, by the Toronto Zoo, is not a good time to have an election between December the 21st and January the 20th. Coming back, I support a by-election, just so that folks know, and we'll have that debate, I suppose, at the next one. But to come back at the next meeting, that means that the earliest, the clerk tells me, is the earliest we could have a by-election is January 23rd. The latest is February 22nd. Still a winter election. It's still going to be cold, but it allows all of us to get through the Christmas holidays, the Christmas break, start up in January, let all of the potential candidates figure out if they want to run or not, and give people enough time to run decent election campaigns and let the people of Scarborough decide if we have the by-election, which I would recommend to this council. But I think that a deferral is a reasonable request. Councillor Lee, as chair of the Scarborough Community Council, has made a reasonable proposal, and that's the one I'm going to support. And I would hope that other councillors from across the city would listen to every single Scarborough councillor that's here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
Speaker, I rarely do this, but I'm going to call the question.
Okay, the question's been called. Recorded vote.
Councillor Schneider, when you're seated, please.
The motion to call the question carries 28-8.
Okay, so we have the motion by Councillor Lee. We'll put it on the screen. Recorded vote.
Councillor, thank you.
Oh, yes.
The motion to defer carries 23-14.
Thank you. Item is amended. All in favor? Carried. Mayor Tory, you have an announcement to make?
I did just want to make a brief comment, Madam Speaker, and maybe ask Councillor Thompson to do the same. Just to let the members know, this morning when I was with the Prime Minister, he, of course, spoke on behalf of all Canadians in talking about our friends in the Bahamas and also in the United States of America and Haiti, among others who have been affected by the hurricane that has gone through. And I think that while Florida was left perhaps less affected than might have been expected, there's still been quite widespread destruction, and certainly in the Bahamas, while it hasn't all become clear yet, the hurricane, as we were hearing, because Councillor Thompson and I were speaking with a gentleman this morning who said the destruction had gone sort of right up through the center of the Bahamas, which, as you know, are a chain of islands that are largely north-south. And I just want to, on behalf of the members of council, I'm sure, and the people of Toronto, because we have such close relations in so many areas, business, tourism, and membership in the Commonwealth and so on, with the Bahamas, to express our, our concerns and our solidarity with the people there, and maybe just ask if Councillor Thompson would bring a little bit of an update, because we are sort of reaching out to various people to see what we can do as a facilitator, if nothing else, to make sure we can help at a time when these people who we're very close to, meaning the Bahamas and Toronto, are in distress. So maybe you could indulge Councillor Thompson a moment, if you would, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Mayor has indicated, we've had some discussions this morning with business leaders from the region who informed us that they were certainly waiting to garner more information, and though that they wanted to be proactive in order to be prepared to lend a helping hand to those who have been impacted by Hurricane Matthew. And we note that there's been some 200 people who've died in Haiti. There are people who've been affected in Cuba as well. The mayor's talked about Florida and Bahamas. We're still waiting to get information. Now, I have spoken with the High Commissioner in the Embassy of Bahamas in Ottawa this morning. I've also spoken to the Tourism Bahamas folks here in Toronto. I've spoken as well to FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, which we're a member of. They are looking to assemble information in terms of then to decide on the course of action to take. I know that there's discussion going on with the Red Cross and others, Global Medics and others, to see how they can help. We know that there is a real need for things like water, food, and shelter and so on. The problem right now is to obviously assess it all, and we're been in touch through the representatives that I've spoken with, talking with airline carriers and so on in terms of who would facilitate transportation of goods. And of course, money will be an important thing so that organizations like the Red Cross and others could acquire the necessary resources that are needed. But as the mayor has indicated, we are ready, willing to play a part and to be involved in terms of what is required from us as a city. So I'm very pleased, Madam Speaker, that because of the call, the mayor has been actively involved, and that we are basically waiting now to hear what's required from us so that we can lend a helping hand to the people in the area, because we're all one big family in terms of our focus on business. We had folks from the Americas who were here from Bahamas and the Caribbean. Just last week, the mayor attended a dinner, spoke to these folks and so on, so we want to make sure that we are collaborating in terms of offering assistance to help the people that are in need. So thank you very much, Speaker, for the opportunity to give you an update.
We just have a couple more items left. So page 2, members' motion 2111. Councillor Davis, you held that down. That was disconnection of storm and sanitary. No, you didn't release it. Do you want to release it?
I did. I said Lou wasn't here and I released it.
Yeah, okay. On favor? On favor? Carried. Next item is on page 3, MM 2112. Councillor Fletcher, you held the item down.
Thank you.
You want to release it? Okay. On favor? Carried. MM 2143. Councillor Greb, do you want to move that? That's your 4050 Yonge Street.
I can find it.
Would you like to move it?
Yes, please. Move staff. I have a.
It's your member's motion that you introduced yesterday, so you
Yes.
just want to move it so we
I
can
do.
approve it?
Yep.
All in favor? Carried. The next one is MM 2144, which is by Councillor Matlow and Councillor Krista Wong-Tam on the donation from Hydro One. Would you like to move that, Councillor Matlow?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. The last one is MM 2145, which is 15 and 35 Mercer Street. Councillor Cressy, moved by Councillor Cressy and Councillor Mahavik. Councillor Cressy, you would like to move that?
Yes, please.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. That's it. Let's just do the bills now. You can. Members, before I ask for motion to enact the general bills, I wish to remind members of council about the requirement to adopt a resolution that council has considered submissions on official plan amendments and zoning bylaws. At our last meeting, the city clerk advised council of the requirement. Deputy Mayor Min Wong, you have a motion?
Yes. That committee and council considered submissions in making a decision on zoning bylaw and official plan amendments.
All in favor, recorded vote.
Councillor DiGiorgio, please.
Councillor Campbell, please. Councillor Crisanti. Councillor Fletcher, please.
Deputy Mayor, please.
The motion acknowledging the submissions on the zoning and official plan matters carries unanimously, 33 in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday, you have a motion to introduce certain bills?
I do. There are two motions. The first, that leave be granted to introduce Bill 977.
Thank you. Shall leave be granted to introduce these bills? All in favor, recorded vote.
Councillor Burnside, Councillor Fragedakis, thank you. Councillor Fillion, please, and Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor Pasternak.
The motion to introduce the bill carries unanimously, 34 in favor.
Shall these bills be passed and declared as... Councillor Holliday is saying... I don't have it here. Shall this... Oh, okay, Councillor Holliday, you have another one?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Speaker. That leave be granted to introduce Bills 888 to 917, 919 to 976 inclusive.
That's a lot of bills.
Shall these bills be passed and declared as a bylaw? All in favor, record... How do we do... Okay, shall leave be granted to introduce these bills? Recorded vote. Recorded vote. Okay, here we go.
Councillor Karygiannis, please. Councillor DiGiorgio. Councillor McMahon. Councillor Wong Tam, please. Councillor Pasternak.
Councillor Ford.
Davis. Councillor Lee.
Councillor Ford, please.
Councillor Davis, please.
The motion to introduce the remaining bills carries unanimously, 33 in favor.
Shall these bills be passed and declared as a bylaw? Recorded vote.
Councillor DiGiorgio, thank you. Councillor McMahon. Councillor Layton. Councillor Davis.
Councillor Fillion, please.
Councilor
Motion to
Cassandri,
enact the bills carries unanimously, 33 in favor.
we still have a few more votes. Councilor Karygiannis, you have a motion regarding absentees.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That the City Council excuse the absence of Councilor Shelley Carroll and Councilor Ron Moser from the October 5, 6, and 7, 2016 City Council meeting.
All those in favor, recorded vote. You want to vote separately?
Why? Come on.
What is it that you want to vote on separately? Who do you want to vote on? Pardon? I want to vote on the two members separately. That's what I'm asking, so who, okay. Okay, on Councilor Moser, recorded vote.
Sure. On Moser, who voted no?
If we don't excuse him, what happens?
3 meetings are out.
Missed a certain number of meetings, and we have to declare the seat vacant, and then ask.
3 meetings in a row.
On a by-election.
I know, I'm
Councilor
just
Mihevik,
joking.
please. Thank you.
Yeah, which actually should happen.
New law.
What the hell is he doing? What's he doing?
The motion to excuse Councillor Moser carries 34 to 1.
You got to be kidding me.
For Councilor Carroll, all in favor? Recorded vote.
Councillor McMahon, please. Councillor Wong Tam. Councillor Davis, please. Councillor Davis.
Councillor Ainsley, please, and Councillor Mihevik. Councillor Robinson.
The motion to excuse the absence of Councillor Carroll carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Councillor Ainsley, you have a motion to introduce the confirming bill.
Yes, I do, Madam Speaker. That leave be granted to introduce a bill to confirm to the point of the introduction of this motion the proceedings of City Council meeting number 21 on October 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2016.
Shall leave be granted to introduce this bill? Recorded vote.
Councillor McMahon, please. Councillor Wong Tam. Councillor Layton. Councillor Davis. Councillor Lee, please.
Councillor Fillion and Councillor Crawford, please.
The motion to introduce the confirming bill carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? Recorded vote.
Councillor DeGiorgio, please. Councillor Wong Tam. Councillor Layton. Councillor Davis. Councillor Lee, please.
Councillor
Pasternak.
Councillor Fletcher, please.
Councillor Lee, please.
The motion to enact the confirming bill carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Okay, so thank you to staff for 3 days. Thank you to members of council. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Don't eat too much turkey.